So here we are today, and we're looking at a very interesting time on your planet. Indeed, you see, what humanity is trying to do is basically release or dissolve warring mentality. And some would say there's nothing like a good war to put it all in our face, so that we must focus on what needs to be done. And it is really interesting to think about how wars happen. In other words, there has to be a lot of aversion. There has to be sometimes a lot of greed as well. But when greed and aversion both get going and then is promoted, we end up in wars of one kind or another. Now, it doesn't always have to go that far, but certainly I think given the current situation, no one really likes war unless one wages war, perhaps. But everyone else wants peace. And while there isn't anything any one of you can do to force certain things to happen on the global scene, there is a lot you can do with your own mind. So you see, the first thing you have to do is look at your mind and see how is it that it controls you, or where is it placed? When you think about the mind, well, most people don't think about it that much, frankly, do they? They follow its lead no matter what it says, even if it may not be completely appropriate. It is such a subtle relationship that one has with his or her mind, and yet it is exceedingly powerful. The mind, you see, according to the ancients, is what gives you the picture of the world that you see, or the world arises according to the mind that perceives it. Most people don't think of it that way. It seems as if whatever, they objectify the world and see that whatever they perceive is probably real. And yet, there's very little evidence to support that. It is, of course, really experienced. But if something is real, that would mean it could not change. That would be all you ever get. So you see, if a person's, let's say, depression or anger were real, that person could experience nothing else. But because it isn't real, it's transient, meaning it exists. It has a beginning point and an ending point. And that is really the difference between existence and reality. They're not the same thing. So when you look at your existence, the temptation is to say it's real. Again, it is really experienced. And yet the way the mind works, it's such an incredible little functional thing, if we can call it that. It's interpreting all the time, isn't it? So one person looks at the war and interprets it in one way. Another looks at the war and interprets it another way. But that's true of life as well. One person can, in fact, there's an analogy that's often used to demonstrate this very point. And it goes something like this. If 5 people are standing on a curb and there's suddenly an automobile accident, and the investigating policeman goes to each person and asks what he or she saw, you will get 5 different stories. Part of it is perhaps they're looking at it from different viewpoints. They're standing in different places. And so some see some things, others see other things. And in some cases, the mind makes up a whole scenario that isn't even going on. And thus it is really strange to try to question one's own mind. And yet at some point, it becomes very necessary if one truly desires happiness.